Okay, hello everyone. I just got home and I actually checked your papers and I noticed that Group 5 did a pretty good job. Medyo nakuha na nila pero the rest of the group actually kay sakto ang inyong mga components na nakuha. Kaso there are some areas na medyo kinahanglan na to sa tutukan class kay either nangabali ang component ninyo. And I also noticed for the other group no ilahang gihimong decimals. Now, this is quite I don't like this, or not necessarily like, but I don't encourage this one because as I've said, whatever is the value na imong makuha, because we will not be using sorry calculators in our class, you should report it as is. So that means if that is square root of 3, I should be seeing square root of 3 here. Because if I'm seeing that that is reported as a decimal, then that is telling me that you are using your calculator. Okay, so wala tay calculator. Kung square root of 3 na siya, square root of 3 yun na siya dira. Pero maayo no, kay nakuha pud sa uban, although nangabali ilang components, mauna nga ako na siyang ipre-record karon. Kay again, supposed to be ato man i-klase or i-example, pero akong gihatag as activity kay na ay emergency meeting ang department. So kana lang gid class nga bali inyong components. Right. Okay. So let's start. I will start by sketching the vector. But then again, as I've said no, wala dili gyud na mag-matter class kinsa ang imong iuna og plot na vector because your vector addition and subtraction commutes. I'm talking very specifically for two operations no nga kuan yun, addition and subtraction lang siya. Dili na siya mag-commute sa multiplication. But for now, di pa man ta mag-deal og multiplication sa vectors. Additions lang man sa ta. So the commutative property holds. So forgive me kay wala ko na-erase ang mga sketch diri. And as I've said no, atong gamiton gyud atong mga na-learn sa unit circle kay di man ta mag-calculator. Okay, so I will start with my vector m. So my vector m is 3 meters 30 degrees west of north. That means to say I will have if I'm having my protractor and I'm scaling it, which is something that is expected of you during the exam, scale man ninyo. So I will have my 0 degrees dito sa akong north, and I will measure the given angle from the last direction, which is north, going west. That means to say if I'm going to have my angle, should look like this one. This is my 30 degrees because I measured it, or I should measure it from my north going west. By the way, this is my west, this is my east, and north and south. So this is your vector M. And do not forget to label that vector. Now, since we are utilizing the tail to tip, that means to say that the head or the tip of my first vector, which I just plotted, should become the tail of my second vector. So dito na ko siya ipatong kumbaga. Okay, so if I'm going to have my second vector, I'll use blue, and that is 60 degrees south of west. That means to say the orientation of my calculator should have my west as my 0 degrees, and I will measure the given angle going south. So this is my west, and going south, so this is west, right? So if I'm going to draw 60 degrees going south, and do note that that vector is slightly longer. Kasi nga, di ba, mas dako siya magnitude kaysa sa mga first vector. This is your 60 degrees. And this is your arrowhead. Of course, you should have an arrowhead since it is a vector, and the name of the vector is vector n. Now, we already discussed this one, that the resultant starts from your origin up until the tip of the last vector. That means to say, if in the exam, I will give you, for example, 5 vectors. So the resultant starts from the origin up until the tip or the head of the very last vector nimo. So in this case, this is your resultant R. Now, why is it important to sketch your resultant vector or the plot of the sum of all the vectors in the first place? Because class, this will help you identify, ilabi na sa imong analytic method man tano, if you are getting the right answers. For example, from your sketch, if you are able to scale it properly, makita gini mo class that this is your, so ganina siya, the resultant in X, and this one is the resultant in Y. Now, a quick investigation of the coordinate axis will tell you that the value of Rx there are all negative, right? So, dapat pag analytic method nimo later, negative yun dapat si Rx. Otherwise, pag solve nimo nakakuha og positive na Rx, balik sa agi, kaya nakasayop yung na somewhere. So, the same with your Ry, kaya naglayo man siya sa quadrant 3. The Ry should have a negative sign. Unless dili na siya mag-negative class, balik yung ka. I-check balik imong mga signs or cosine nimo or imo ang mga positive or negative dito basig wa ka kabantay sa reflection or sa symmetry sa imong unit circle. Kay dapat kung asa nakita nimong resultant ka quadrant, maunay expected nimo na value sa x. Kay gini man, again akong lang yun i-emphasize og ayo no na ka sa quadrant 3, do note that the values of x there are negative and so is y. That means to say the Rx nimo kinama na siya sa quadrant 3 should be negative and the Ry should be negative also. Okay, so once we are done with the plot, the first step that we need to do is to